Red Hot Gotsy, come subscribe, come subscribe, come subscribe, come subscribe.
Red Hot Gotsy. Alright, so today I'm going to be talking about modern shonen and just in general why I think a lot of it just fails to impress me and why I think it's one of the weaker parts of anime in general. Now, I also think it's one of the strongest parts of anime, and it has a lot of like core elements that I agree with in terms of like the hero's journey, and it handles like death. It also has like it's predominantly a male audience, but also has a lot of like great female characters, which I will go over, and also go over the supposedly bad ones. It has like great villains. If it's more of like if it's somewhat of a long run in shonen, then a lot of them have a lot of villains that stick around for a while, and you get to see them be like fleshed out and see all of their plans and see how they correlate with the heroes, and the parallels with all the different characters and why this matters and why the villain is doing what they're doing. It's just it all correlates and it all comes together, and I think that's very great in general for this genre of media. But I'm just gonna go over why exactly I have some problems with it, and let's just get into it. The next thing I would like to talk about is death. Now, death basically doesn't exist. Let's just be honest. Like, death does not exist in shonen. It never will exist. It's basically just a memory of the past, to be honest. Like, I'm pretty sure y'all remember a lot of shonens from like, I don't know, 20, 30 plus years ago that actually had death and consequences and stuff like that. Because consequences, besides like Demon Slayer, I can't think of many like of these modern shonens that have like a genuine like a lot of oh god. A lot of these different battle shonens have a lot of great stories when it comes to like being the number one hero, being the Hokage, just like saving his sister, and just like being the strongest in general. I think a lot of those stories are great, and it's great concepts. They even have different like battle systems like magic, quirks, and bankais, and chakra, just all this great stuff, ki, and I love all that different types of stuff. But like in general, I feel like the hero's journey lacks depth in terms of its main cast, and mainly with the side characters. I feel like a lot of the side characters are disrespected, mishandled. They lack a lot of depth compared to the main character. But sometimes it's actually a switcheroo. It's actually the main character is probably the worst character of the bunch, or one of the worst. Like, he's lacking, and that's pretty bad because the main character should actually, by far, or at least like decently, like it should be pretty clear that the main character has more plot, more depth, more development than the rest of the cast, because obviously he's the main draw to the show, and he's the main reason that people watch it. He's the main character the main person you're gonna be seeing in this series, and he drives a lot of the plot. So if he's not on point, then a lot of the other characters are gonna fall behind him. But in other circumstances, he actually falls behind everyone else, and everyone else is just, they get more plot and more great stories because they are allowed to lose potentially. Because some of these main characters is like they can't lose because they're either too overpowered or the story doesn't demand for it. Now, the next thing I'd like to talk about is death. Now, death basically does not exist. Now, obviously, I'm exaggerating, but I feel like a lot of these shonen just don't have permanent deaths. And even the deaths that do happen, it's just like they're not meaningful enough to say like, oh my god, this actually happened. Oh my Jesus, oh, I didn't think they would kill that character off. That's crazy. And then a lot of people, they're either excited or they're sad. They're crying like, oh my god. And some people are mad, but it's just like, to really get you to that point, that character needs to stick around for a while, usually, and actually have an impact on you or have good development. Like, you can either have like Sir Night Eye, kind of that kind of impact where some people would be, it's kind of divisive because some people will be sad, some people just won't care at all. I'm kind of, I would say it works for like Mirio's character, and this is My Hero Academia, just to say, it works for Mirio's character. He's another hero, but it's just like it doesn't, for the overall plot, it didn't really do that much, and that's one of those things. It's like he died, but he literally showed up in that same arc, so he had one arc to just get all this development and then just die. Like, stuff like that doesn't usually work. But then you have Demon Slayer on the other end, where it does work, where Rengoku is his main character for a little bit, and he is one of the Hashira. It's basically just demons are killing people in the world, and then Demon Slayers are guys with swords, or people with swords, and they have to train and learn how to use those swords that can kill the demons, and he eventually dies. Now, that has a huge impact on people, even though he wasn't in the manga or the anime, which actually was turned into a movie at first. He wasn't there for very long, so it's like it could work, but I feel like a lot of the time it's a gamble, and it's a gamble that shouldn't even be made. Like, you really, in a story, you should give that character a lot of time in order to flesh them out and give them depth, so that we can actually feel the impact of their demise, and the loss of that character, whether they were funny or strong. Like, they need to feel very important to the story, and I feel like a lot of times it just doesn't happen. Now, the women in shonen. Now, this is a huge topic, a huge debacle that a lot of people are arguing about. Now, I'm just going to give a very quick synopsis of what I would say this whole situation is about. Now, when it comes to a lot of the women in shonen, you have your Nezukos, you have your Sakuras, you have your Urarakas, stuff like that. And I'm obviously talking about like the most popular shonen, so I'm very self-aware about this. I can understand that, but a lot of them are like hated on, like to a unreasonable degree. I feel like, especially like some people can defend Sakura and say she's a good character. Honestly, from what I've heard, I don't watch Naruto, but I have enough information to kind of say that I think it's the latter. because obviously your obsession with Sasuke is kind of like just ridiculous, to be honest. But I would need more information on that in general. But an obsession with that character needs to like develop, and like we need to understand why they have that obsession with them. If it's just like there for the sake of comedy, then it's stupid. If it's like sort of something that was built up, then I understand it. The thing is, she does get over it eventually when she eventually cuts her hair, and that's something I figured out. But a lot of the times people call her weak because she does not win fights, when that doesn't correlate to a female character or a character in general being weak. And that's just frustrating because like when you get into discourse with people about these types of characters, they kind of want to fall into the mindset that the women are being like oppressed, and that the women don't have their own agency, or they don't have as great of plots, or great as they don't have the great moments that the men have, and that kind of frustrates them, which I think is kind of ridiculous. If I had to choose an example, it would be My Hero Academia. Now, in My Hero Academia, I feel like Uraraka is the main female character, I would say, of like the Class 1A group in the school. Now, she doesn't have as much development as I would give her, or a lot of people would give her, or that they want, because she kind of gets sidelined, just like a lot of other characters, for Deku's development, Todoroki's development, and Bakugo. Mainly Deku, to be honest. Let's be honest. And that's frustrating for a lot of people because there aren't as many female characters. I think there's 6 in total, and I think there's like 14 or 16 other dudes. So it's just like it's annoying to people to have to deal with the fact that there's less women and there's even less development for those specific women. The problem I have is that I feel like in general a lot of the male characters are just disrespected in general if they're not the main characters, like the main ones. Like for example, Todoroki and Bakugo, they get a lot of love. They're they're at the forefront. Like even Black Clover doesn't do this. Black Clover is bad in my opinion. I could talk about that objectively in another video if y'all would like. But I feel like a lot of the main characters are fleshed out and actually given the respect that they deserve. They're given some sort of backstory, plotline, to give them either like a like more development on their power, like a power up maybe potentially, or it just like gives you a different perspective on the character. And I feel like for each character I can say something about them, even the ones that probably are like less likable, Ghosh for example. But like I think with My Hero, it's just like it doesn't. Horikoshi, he has great art, fantastic artwork. I gotta commend him for that. It's probably the best in modern shonen in general. Some people like Jujutsu Kaisen as well. And yeah, I think he has great art, but his story is lacking in terms of like the development for these characters. Like especially like Class 1A. Like I could branch out to the pro heroes and all that other stuff, but mainly with the Class 1A group, they get nothing. And you could say even like they're not even like the main characters. Like they were for like the first couple arcs, but they kind of branched out to like other stuff. So obviously they have to develop characters like Mirio and Night Eye and Shigaraki later on. But like I feel like if you started out with these main characters, you should have given them something at the beginning, and then we can move on to other characters once we get enough of these characters. Because I feel like we've gotten like 3 movies of these characters and a couple seasons, and I still feel like I don't really know who these characters are, and that's a huge problem. So they need to fix that, honestly. And I feel like a lot of these shows need to fix that. Like even with Demon Slayer, like it's kind of it's better and worse at the same time. I feel like Zenitsu and Inosuke, I'm not gonna say Nezuko. Nezuko's trash. I'm not gonna talk about Freak Nezuko. But I feel like those 2 are better, and you're only working with 4 in terms of like I guess the kids or the teenagers. So like, it's not as much to work with, but they still have the same problem. It's not nearly as bad though, because again, you don't have much to work with. Now, when it comes to the villains, there's not much I have to say about the villains in general. I feel like a lot of them fit the themes of their respective shows. Like with Naruto, a lot of the characters are based on the different villages and stuff like that that they live in, and the different ideologies like that Naruto and Sasuke and the other characters behold. But when it comes to like My Hero, is more about society and what the Hero Society creates and what it prevents and stuff like that. Like it prevents a lot of like genuine heroes from existing because they get shafted or killed or whatever the case may be, and a lot of the fake ones actually live and they're in the forefront and they're in the spotlight, and that's why like Hero Killer Stain exists, for example. He's basically a villain, but he's kind of an anti-hero, so it's like villains can work within your themes and your reasoning for having that particular show to explain like something about either society or the world or something. But I feel like a lot of them they lack a lot of development. Like with Shigaraki in My Hero, he doesn't get a lot of development until like I would say technically season 5 of the anime, where he really gets a lot. And then probably over 100 chapters into the manga, over 100 freaking chapters. And I keep thinking about that. Over 100 chapters, you do not have enough, because he gets a minuscule amount, like, but it's not enough to where I fully know about this character and we can like move on from here. We can like go on more adventures with this character, because you don't really get much of them because you don't know who they are. Like there's other characters around them who interact with these heroes. Like you have All For One. You have freaking the other League of Villain characters. You have the Nomu who fights All Might. It's like you have everything else but Shigaraki, who's supposed to be the main big bad, who's actually supposed to be the most fleshed out, who's just there. And in any other like franchise or any like stories, other than like some of these anime ones, a lot of them are like fleshed out in season one, and you already know who they are, like mostly. Like there might be still like twists and turns and different stuff about the character you might learn over time, but like you have a good basis of who they are and how they interact with these characters, with the heroes, for example. And, with a lot of these shonens, you just don't get that. And again, even if you do get it, it's like doing something does not mean that it's good necessarily, because a lot of the like story a lot of these characters get is just let me think about it. It's exposition, but it's also just badly timed in general. Like it happens too early or too late in the game. And I feel like with Shigaraki it happens too late in the game. With a lot of these like other ones, it probably happens too early, and you don't really feel the full impact of like who they are and stuff like that. And even again, with like Demon Slayer, when Rengoku died, he died to a Kaza who just showed up, suddenly, and he was number 3, the number 3 demon, and stuff like that. It's just like I don't understand exactly why they do stuff like that, because like you can make explanations for why that are like headcanon, but other than that, it's like you're not gonna really come up with anything. Yeah, and that's the annoying part. You have to use headcanon to explain like simple stuff that they already should have like had in story. This should be really like no question. The last thing I wanted to mention is the power scaling. The power scaling is pretty okay sometimes, but I feel like a lot of it is just whatever character is important in that arc wins. And like if two characters, the main characters are fighting, whoever just is going to drive the plot more wins. And for example, if it's like Bakugo versus Deku, Deku loses because he's he's going to be the number 1 hero in the future, so he needs to lose now. So it's like there's not stakes, but like he's able to lose, and we believe it, that kind of thing. So it feels more of like a believable, interesting story. And with Bakugo winning, he's the one who like gets the development and drives the plot more. So of course he's gonna win. With Todoroki, it's the same thing. Deku wants him to use his fire. Now it's in character somewhat for him to want to do that. My whole thing is they don't really flesh out Todoroki enough, at least in my opinion, for him to be a likable character. So I even give a crap about him using his freaking like his fire. Like I don't care. So why would I care about Deku, wanting to save him? I guess I could also add that when it comes to like fighting the villains, a lot of these heroes just get power-ups just for the sake of it, The power of friendship. It's just like a really annoying concept, and it needs to be burned and out of my existence, out of my brain. I don't want to ever see it again. And yeah, that's basically it for this video. Comment, subscribe, like, let me know what you think. I'll keep making more anime videos if y'all like. It's just something I do on the side. I mainly talk about just like Marvel and DC, all this other stuff. Just comment, subscribe, like, let me know what you think. Yeah, I already said that.
Jose. Red Hot Gotsy, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe, like, come subscribe.